Welcome to session 4 and our final session of Reclamation. And in this class today, we are exploring our power and the reclaiming of our power. Not that it has gone anywhere, but simply that it is more of a remembrance of your innate power. So with that, I invite you to explore this class in a way that feels welcome to your body. As always, everything is an invitation that you have the right, the choice, the freedom to decline or accept. And I welcome you to start in a reclined resting pose today. And if lying on your back does not feel safe, does not feel welcome, you might choose to instead start in just a seated shape of your choice. I have my blanket open just for a little bit of comfort for my spine. However, you do not have to have your blanket here if you don't want to. And so as we recline, you might start by either finding the seat of your choice, if that's what you prefer, or you might start by reclining down onto your back, maybe even pulling the knees in toward your chest. Option to wrap your arms around your knees and just pause here for a moment. Option to rock to left to right. Checking in on your body, noticing how you feel. And whether you are in a seated shape or resting on your spine, I welcome you to take just a couple breaths to notice where your body is touching the floor, the mat. Begin arriving in this space that is yours, this time that is yours. And if your knees are still pulled in toward your chest, whenever you want to, you might release your feet to the floor. And here you can plant the feet on the floor if you like, maybe around hip distance. And I offer you an affirmation for our class today. There's 2 versions of it. And it's a fill-in-the-blank affirmation so that you can really make it your own, depending on what you need in this moment of your journey. I am blank and powerful. I am fill in the blank and powerful. Or if it doesn't feel totally true to your body to say that you are powerful, if that doesn't feel like it really resonates, you might say, I can be blank and powerful. And so power doesn't have to be loud and grand. It doesn't have to be forceful. Power can be solid, sure, quiet, because there's an innate knowing with this power that you know it's there, or perhaps you are rediscovering or remembering that it is innate and it is inside of you. And so perhaps you are gentle and powerful. Perhaps you are wise and powerful, or maybe soft and powerful. Or maybe it's the welcoming of the possibility that you can be those things. What resonates with you in this moment? And I invite you to fill in the blank and choose the affirmation that resonates with you most. And when you have the affirmation that you'd like to work with, if you choose to work with one, you might even take an inhale at your own pace in your own way, allowing the affirmation to settle a little bit deeper into your body. And a soft exhale in your own timing. And if you are resting on your spine with your feet planted on the floor, you might begin to curl the tailbone up and allow your spine to peel up off of the mat like you're peeling a sticker off. And then maybe even returning right back down like you're peeling it down, allowing your tailbone to come down last. Continuing to explore this curling motion of your spine, peeling up, peeling down. And if this feels a little bit vulnerable, it might feel welcome to drape a blanket over your hips to provide a little bit of covering. And if you are in a seated shape, you could explore this exact same movement from a seated shape, just drawing your spine forward, opening up the heart space, and then rounding the spine back, hollowing out the heart space. So whatever you decide for your body in this moment, I invite you to take another 3 rounds of breath to explore the movement and shape of your choice. Knowing that even though I offer you to explore it for X amount more breaths, it doesn't mean that you have to. So at any point you decide that you want to be done, you can be done. At any point you decide you want to go longer, you can go longer. And so with our last exhale, you might allow the spine and the hips to release back down to the earth. Or if you're seated, you might allow your spine to come back to center. And just pausing here at center. Taking a moment to just feel whatever sensation is present for you along the spine, maybe even through the chest. And then with your next breath in, I welcome you to draw your knees back in toward the chest. And just wrap your hands around your knees if that feels supportive. Maybe even placing your hands behind your knees. And then allowing your arms to extend just a comfortable length so that you still have a firm hold on the backs of the legs. Your shoulders can still rest on the floor, but we can allow the knees to separate from the chest a little bit. And here, you might begin to inhale and allow your feet to float up towards the sky. And exhale, allow the heels to float right back down. And if you are in a seated shape, you could extend the legs out in front of you. And then just begin to fold forward and come back to center, finding this kind of like a rocking motion, if you will, if you're in a seated shape. So continuing to work with your breath, we're just gently saying hello to our hamstrings. You can start to inhale, lift the legs up towards the ceiling, and exhale, lower them back down, finding your own rhythm here. Maybe you're rocking toward your legs if you're seated, and then rocking back away from your legs. And your legs don't have to be totally straight. If your hamstrings are saying, whoa, these are some big sensations here, you don't have to completely straighten your legs. And wherever you are, I welcome you to take another 2 rounds of breath. Maybe even rolling through the ankles as we find a bit more movement. And whenever you're ready, releasing the feet back down, planting them on the floor. And then if you are lying on your back, when you're ready to, you could roll onto one side. Just pause here for a moment, allowing the body to adjust. And then I'll meet you in a child's pose. So you can adjust your propping as needed if you have a blanket underneath you, or if you want a blanket underneath you for your knees. You can adjust that now. If you want a second blanket to drape over your hips and your lower back, that is also an option. You choose here. And we'll begin to find child's pose. An option here to allow the knees to maybe go a little bit wider than hip distance, maybe even more toward the edges of your mat. And then your big toes might touch back behind you, kind of like you're creating a V pattern with your shins. And then you might begin to send the hips back toward the heels. Perhaps walking the hands forward, maybe resting your forehead on the floor. And if it doesn't feel welcome to have your knees wider, you can choose a different width. They don't have to be as wide as the mat. They can be a bit more narrow if that feels more safe. And if you prefer to have your gaze up, you could always lift your gaze, maybe stack your fists underneath your chin. Just rest your chin on your fists or your forehead on your fists. So you choose. As we begin to feel into the lower back, noticing any sensations that might be present in this area of your body. With your next inhale, I invite you to bring to mind your affirmation. I can be blank and powerful. Or I am fill in the blank and powerful. Perhaps you inhale into this and exhale. Allow it to just release into your body. Not needing to force it, but maybe being curious what this could feel like. Especially if it doesn't feel true to you. We don't have to force it to be true. We can just allow it to be curious, to explore it. And you can stay in this child's pose as long as you want. And when you're ready, you might begin to inhale and shift yourself forward. Maybe finding a tabletop shape. Your knees could be somewhere underneath your hips, thereabouts. Maybe the hands find their way underneath your shoulders, about shoulder distance apart. Give or take, it doesn't have to be exact. And I invite you to move through your body in a way that feels organic and natural. And that means that there's no agenda. It means that you can move in any way that your body is prompting you to move. for the next 2 rounds of breath. You might explore stretching your side body, maybe rolling your neck around. You choose for 1 more breath. And then beginning to come back to center if you're ready for it. We will explore some, I call these child pose vinyasas because they're much more gentle than a full sun A vinyasa. And we'll start in a version of child's pose. And so rather than adjusting our knees, we can leave them parallel if it feels okay for your body. And send the hips back toward the heels. And this is where we'll start if you'd like to join. And so you could begin by just taking 1 easeful breath in and out here. And I'll take you through this flow about 3 times before we explore some other shapes, just to start to flow into the body with the breath. And so as you breathe in, or when you're ready to, you could shift your body forward back into your tabletop, maybe walking your hands forward a little bit. And then exhale. You could lower down onto the stomach. With your hands planted on the floor, you could begin to inhale, press your hands into the mat, and just lift your heart a little bit, really allowing it to shine forward. And then as you exhale, you would release your heart back down to the mat. Press into your hands and shift back into this modified child's pose. And as you shift the hips back, your hands will probably move back, and that's okay. We'll just walk our hands back forward whenever we get back up there. So that's 1 flow, and I invite you to join me for 2 more. Inhaling forward. Exhale. Lowering down. When and if you're ready, inhaling, pressing into the hands. Maybe you open up your heart. This is our cobra shape. And then exhale, pressing into the hands and shifting yourself back. Continuing at your own pace, inhaling forward, I can be blank. Exhaling, lowering yourself down and powerful. Inhaling, pressing the hands into the mat and opening up through the heart. Exhale, when you're ready to, shifting your body back, finding a modified child's pose. Inhale, shifting yourself forward in your own timing. There's no rush. And here, you could begin to extend your right leg. Maybe you hover it off of the floor. Maybe you take a few ankle rolls, feeling the engagement of your right quad. And then when you're ready, we could breathe in and exhale. Start to draw the right foot up and forward towards the right hand, maybe even using your right hand to help it forward. And here we could even utilize some blocks. If this feels welcome to your body, you could use some blocks right here, underneath the hands, underneath the shoulders. And we're just using the blocks to bring the floor to us. And if you don't have blocks, that's okay. You can just bring your hands to the floor. So finding the slow lunge, maybe even taking a couple breaths to kind of explore what sensations are here. You might shift from side to side. You might lengthen a little bit through your front leg and then lunge back into it. 1 more breath. And then option to stay here in the slow lunge if this is still a welcome experience. Or if you would like to find a twist, you might keep your left hand planted on your block or the floor. And then using your right hand, your right arm to inhale and peel the right shoulder back. Maybe reaching the right arm up towards the ceiling. Option to take a few wrist rolls here with your right hand. You might even leave your right hand extended up, or option to exhale and send your right arm back and reaching for your left hip. So the back of your right hand can kind of just rest on your left hip area. Noticing what kind of sensations are happening in the right shoulder, the right side of your chest, maybe even your ribs. And with your next inhale, if you're ready to leave this shape, you could begin to reach the right arm back up if you sent it behind you, and lower it back down to the block or the floor. And moving the blocks out of the way, if you have them in front of you, you could start to send the hips back and extend the right leg, and maybe you return it to this hovering shape. So if hovering your right foot is like, I'm not really feeling that today, you could always bring the right toes to the floor and allow them to rest here. If you need to adjust your hands, maybe walk them underneath your shoulders for some stability. That's also something you could explore. So whether your right toes are resting on the floor or maybe your right foot is hovering, you might stay here, or you might inhale and extend your left arm forward. Taking a few breaths, bringing some awareness to your abdominal muscles, your core. And now, while the point of this is not to work out, quote unquote, your core, the point of this is to feel how powerful your body is, how strong your body is. If you feel really wobbly, you might even tuck your left toes and notice if that helps with some stability. Option to stay here for a couple more breaths, or you might swim your left hand back, bend your right knee, and reach for your right foot. Now, this is an option. This is not a requirement. You know your body best. You know exactly how to be in your body in this moment. As we're here for one more breath. Exhale, gently start to release. If you're ready to release, your hand can come back to the floor, your knee can come back to the floor, and maybe you move for a moment organically in your body. If your right wrist is feeling a little tender, you might roll through your right wrist. And then in your own timing, I'll meet you back in our tabletop as we breathe in. And exhale, option to lower down onto the stomach. With your next breath in, you might press into your hands and lift your heart for cobra. You come up only as much as you want to. And then as you exhale, pressing into the hands and shifting yourself back. And I'll meet you in a child's pose. As we rest here for just a few breaths, feeling what's present. How did some of those shapes feel? How does the right side of your body feel in comparison to the left? And then you choose how long you want to stay here in this child's pose. There's no wrong answer. This is your time, your practice. You can do with it whatever you want. And if and when you're ready to inhale, lift the head and shift yourself forward into a tabletop. I'll meet you there. An option to extend the left leg behind you. Maybe you take a few ankle rolls. And again, you can tuck your right toes if that helps with some stability. And feeling some engagement in your left leg, your left quad. Noticing the strength and power inside of you. If you're ready, you might inhale and draw the left knee forward. We'll find a low lunge on this side. Go ahead and adjust as needed, maybe even using your blocks. And just as we took a few moments on the previous side, you can take a few moments here to feel, maybe move. Whether that's kind of side to side, back and forth, or maybe just in stillness. And the next time you find yourself in a low lunge, back in stillness, you might leave the right hand on the block or the floor. And if you'd like to take the twist, you could inhale and peel the left shoulder, the left arm back, maybe even reaching it up towards the ceiling. Option to take a few wrist rolls. And then you might stay right here. Just this strong line of energy reaching through your left arm, through your left fingertips. Or you might send your left hand back, bringing the back of the left hand to the right hip. You choose. Wherever you are, as you breathe in with your next inhale, can you bring your affirmation to mind? I can be blank and powerful. Inhaling and releasing if you're ready to release. Maybe bringing your left hand back down. And then option 2, send your left foot back. Maybe hovering your left foot. Option to tuck your right toes. Option to leave the top of the foot on the mat if you prefer. There's really no right or wrong here. It's whatever you want. And so you might allow the left toes to rest on the mat, or you might allow the left foot to hover. Wherever you are, can you bring some awareness to your core? And here in the center of your body, your center mass, you might even reach through the right arm. However, you could leave both hands on the floor if that's what your body is preferring. And wherever you are, feeling this engagement, feeling this long, strong line of energy through your body, remembering here, remembering that your power is innate. It is not something outside of you. It is something that begins and ends inside of you. Option to stay here or reach the right hand back for your left foot. This is an option. You could press your left foot into your right hand, noticing any sensation in the left quad. As we take one last breath, exhale to release. Bringing the knees back to the floor, the hands back to the floor. And then option here to lower down onto your stomach. for our very last child's pose vinyasa. Maybe you inhale, press your hands into the floor, open up through the heart for cobra. Holding as long as you want and releasing whenever you're ready to press yourself back and find your version of child's pose. Taking another 1 or 2 rounds of breath. You might even repeat in the privacy of your mind, or even outwardly, verbally. My power is innate. I am rediscovering, I am remembering my power. And here, I welcome you to take the next 6 to 8 rounds of breath to explore a shape, a pose of your choice. So really tuning into this innate power, your right to choose, your right to do with your body what you will, to experience your body as you will, and using these next 6 to 8 breaths as a practice to choose for yourself, to tap into your innate freedom, your innate power. And so this could look like anything you want. And I'll just give you a few options to kind of perk your interest. You might explore taking a down dog, maybe tucking the toes and lifting the hips up towards the ceiling, maybe releasing the heels. You might explore taking a standing shape, maybe stepping 1 foot forward and taking a warrior 2. Bending into your front leg for the warrior 2 and lengthening through your back leg. Taking it on the other side in a few breaths. So whatever shape you want to take, even if that's just staying, or not even just, because there's nothing just about child's pose, but maybe it's staying in child's pose. Maybe it's exploring this shape right here. What does your body want? Where does your body want to be? And when you're ready, if you are taking a shape that you need to switch sides on, you might begin to switch sides and use up the next 3 or 4 breaths to explore the opposite side. This is just free flowing. This is whatever you want it to be, no agenda. This is an exercise of choice, of remembrance, of connection. Starting to take our last breath here. Starting to find completion and finish up. And I'll meet you in a tabletop shape. And then we'll just sit back on our heels and swing our legs out in front of us. So we have a couple options here. 2 options, actually. As you bring your legs in front of you, you might just kind of point and flex the feet, feel into your body, maybe engaging your quads and feeling with your hands the strength of your muscles. And option 1 is called a reclined warrior's pose. And that looks like taking one leg. I'm going to start on my right side and folding it back behind you. And so my right heel is not actually underneath me. I'm not actually sitting on my heel. It's right next to me. It might feel uncomfortable to sit on it, but to each their own. And so for this option 1, reclined warriors pose, you could stay right here and just explore this shape. Maybe you're already feeling the sensation in your right quad. Maybe this is already where you want to be. If you are feeling into your right quad and you say, I could use a little bit more, I'm kind of curious, you might take your hands and just lean back. Just resting here. Feeling, tuning in. And if your body is saying, I'm still curious for a little bit more, you might create some space behind me. You might even come back onto your elbows or lay all the way down on your back. So please be very gentle with your body. Listen to these sensations that are inside of you. These sensations that your body is sending you are little messages. And so only you know what those messages are. And you choose what works for you. And if having your leg behind you in this reclined warriors pose is like really not working and you're like, oh, my knee is hurting or anything else, then you could simply allow your legs to stay right in front of you and begin to just bring your right leg or one leg, the sole of your foot, to your left leg and explore folding forward here. So this is the alternative shape. So you could either fold your right leg back, or you can bring the sole of your foot to your left leg. Or I guess there's always a third option, and that would be you do whatever you want, because this is your practice. And so wherever you are, whatever shape you choose, I invite you to explore this for the next 3 rounds of breath. What do you feel and where do you feel it? And after your 3rd round of breath, or whenever you feel complete, you might begin to find your way back to center, wherever and however you get to center. If your leg is folded back, you might even use your hand to help lengthen it back out. And then you could just take a moment to kind of feel into your legs, just as we did when we started. You might even notice, if you look at your legs, does one leg look a little bit more relaxed? Does one leg feel longer? Yeah. And then we'll take the other side. So you could, and I'll turn this way so you can see this side as well. You could fold your left leg back behind you, or you could bring your left foot to your right leg, allowing the left knee to fall open. And so if you allow the left knee to fall open, you might explore folding forward. That's a great option. And if your leg is folded back behind you in a reclined warrior pose, you could go through the options of maybe walking your hands behind you, stopping at any point where your body says, I'm good here. We can honor our bodies by just listening when they send us those sensation messages, and we'll be here for the next 5 rounds of breath. However, you can choose to leave whenever you want to. Or you could always choose to stay longer. Starting to find completion here. Perhaps finding your way back up to center. Releasing your leg, being gentle. And then here, we'll begin to find our way onto our backs and begin to set up for a final twist and a final resting shape. And if lying on your back, again, doesn't feel safe, that's okay. You can choose to stay seated or even lie on your side if you prefer that. Ultimately, the shape doesn't matter. What matters is you choosing for yourself, noticing what feels safe and welcome to your body, and then following that prompting. So, as we find our way down onto our backs, we're not going to spend a ton of time in this twist because I'd like to take you through a guided meditation. So, you might begin to draw your right knee in toward your chest if you're lying on your back, and maybe allow your left leg to extend out. You could always choose to stay right here. If this shape feels really supportive, this is a great place to be. And if you do want to take the twist, you might begin to breathe in and breathe out. Maybe you allow your knee that's in toward the chest to fall over to the opposite side. You might place, so for me it's my right knee, so if your right knee is falling over to the left, you might even take your right hand and just rest it on your ribs if you want. You could always just allow your hands to fall open. And your right shoulder doesn't have to stay glued to the floor. If you want, you could allow your right shoulder to float up a little bit. There's no yoga police here. There's really no right or wrong. Perhaps even feeling into your body. Where in your body are you feeling this twist? And if you're in a seated shape, you could begin to just inhale and exhale, maybe sending the right shoulder back, the left shoulder forward as you twist in a seated way, if that's where you are. One last breath here. And if you feel complete, you might begin to draw your knee back in toward your chest, perhaps even pulling your other knee back to chest. And then holding your left leg in, or the leg that hasn't been in yet, you could extend your opposite leg down. And again, you could stay right here. Or if you're ready to move into a twist on this next side, you could breathe in at center. And exhale, you could begin to send your left knee, or whichever knee was pulled in towards your chest, to the opposite side. Your choice of hand placement, you might even enjoy using your bottom hand to hug your knee into place or just stabilize it. You might enjoy just allowing your hands to fall open. You decide. You choose. As we take just about 3 breaths here. You could choose to stay here longer, or you might start to find completion, rolling back to center whenever you feel done. Maybe even pulling both knees in toward the chest one last time. If it feels welcome, you might even rock from side to side. And then here I invite you to choose a final resting shape of your choice. That might look like planting the feet on the floor, maybe allowing the feet to open up to plant on either side of your mat, and then allowing your knees to fall in toward one another. The reason why we do that is that it just allows your hip flexor muscles to rest instead of having to hold on. So this is just one option. You might even just allow your legs to extend out all the way, perhaps even draping a blanket over you. You might enjoy lying on your side, resting on your stomach, or even coming up into a seated shape, if that's what feels safe. And the point is, again, that there is no right or wrong. You choose what is going to allow you to feel safe, and so as you set up here for our time of guided meditation, I invite you to bring to mind, as you find stillness, as you find a sinking in to your support, bring to mind your affirmation. I can be blank and powerful. Or maybe it is, I am fill in the blank and powerful. Perhaps it doesn't feel totally true to you, and that's okay. Maybe for today, we just hold it as a possibility. We hold this action of remembering in our hearts, and we just allow it to be what it is for this moment. And so as you settle into your final resting shape, you might choose to leave your eyes open, or you might choose to close them. And if at any point that you need to move, you absolutely can. You can change your mind at any time. You can move your body at any time. There's no rules here. And I invite you to bring to mind a place in nature that feels safe and welcoming to you. A place that maybe you've been before, or maybe it's a place that you just create in your mind. Noticing around you all of the trees that might be present, the sunlight, Or maybe there's a water source nearby. What kind of ground are you standing on in this safe place in nature? And as you look around this space, with the light shining and all of the beautiful aspects of the earth around you, you look to the side and you notice there's a trail. And as you see this trail, this path, you begin to walk toward it and step onto the path. Taking your time, you begin to walk, noticing just all of the beautiful nature around you in this safe space, this space that is just for you. And a ways down the path, you see something small and square sitting on the floor of the path, and you continue walking, making your way toward it. And as you become closer to it, you see that it's a small box. And you walk over to it and you pick it up. And you see that on this box is a small lock that closes it. And so you feel around in your pockets and eventually you pull out a little key and it fits perfectly into the lock. And so you unlock the box and you open it. And inside of the box you see 4 items. And you pull the first one out. And you notice it's a piece of you. And so you look down at your body and you notice that there's a piece missing. And in this box is the perfect puzzle piece to fit to your body. And so you take it and you return it to its rightful place, fitting it into your body exactly where it goes. And where is this place that this piece fits so perfectly? And so with the puzzle piece of your body returned to its rightful place, you return back to the box and you take out the second item and you hold it in your hands and you recognize it as your freedom to choose, your freedom of choice. And you turn it over in your hands and you see that it is a compass with your name engraved on it. What does this compass look like? And where is it pointing? And so you take the compass and you slip it into your pocket, returning back to the box and pulling out the third item. And in your hands, you see, as you hold it, that it is your voice. And so cupping your voice in your hands, you hold it up to your lips and you breathe in. And as you feel your voice, this breath that carries your voice moving back down and into your body, you feel that there is something that your voice is wanting to say. And so you speak it out. And having said what your voice needed to say, you finally return to the box and pull out the fourth and final item. And in your hands, you hold your power as a glowing ball of blazing light. And what color is this glowing ball of light that is your power? And as you hold it in your hands, cupping it to your chest, you reintegrate it back into your very core. And you begin to shine from the inside out. Feeling this blazing light shining from the inside of your body, from the very core of who you are, from the very core of your body. You let it soak in, warming your skin, feeling it settle back into its rightful place. Now the box is empty, and so you set it aside, and you begin to walk back down the path the way that you came, feeling the reclaimed pieces of you settle back into place. Noticing how it feels to have your body, your choice, your voice, and your power reclaimed, reconnected, and remembered. And as you walk further down this path, coming closer to where you first stepped onto the trail, you begin to become aware of the place that you are resting on your mat. Continuing to stay in this place of rest for the next 2 minutes, allowing this reintegration to take place as I will be quiet for these next 2 minutes. And I'll let you know when this time is complete. And you can stay here in this place as long as you like. There's no rush to move away from this time of rest if this is serving you and supporting you. And if you are ready to move away from this time of rest, you might begin to add some just small movement back into your body. Anywhere it might feel welcome. Maybe taking a full body stretch. And if you're lying on your back, you might roll over onto your side. And then taking your time, whenever you're ready, you can press yourself up. And I'll meet you in this seated shape, any seated shape that feels welcome. Option to place one hand over your heart and one over your abdomen. And if you'd like, you could take one collective breath with me. And we'll start by exhaling our air out, and we'll breathe in together. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me in this series of reclamation and remembering. My hope for you is that you feel safe, connected, and at home in your body. Please do not hesitate to reach out if you have any questions at all about this class or this series. I welcome your messages, your questions, your curiosities. Thank you.